Okay, how y'all doing again? This is Tommy Charles, as you know, the CEO of the Speakers of Organization, LLC. I want to come before you one more time on another subject dealing with witchcraft, sorcery, and the word magic is what I want to bring to your attention. And my reason for wanting to bring this subject to your attention is because I realize that the world is pushing for a satanic world. The world is pushing towards the world systems, or the people that's in control of the world systems are pushing for a satanic world. They want to get rid of anybody that says, you know, that's Christianity. They even want to get rid of the time come where they want to even get rid of the atheists. Now the atheists don't believe in anyone. Atheists don't even believe that the people that are atheists don't even believe that there is a God. You have people that believe in the Big Bang theory, that everything was created out of nothing by nobody, dealing with molecules. You have people that believe that, especially our culture, come from apes, but there's no apes turning into humans today. So you got a lot of foolishness, but what has to be understood is that there's an entity, an individual in the spiritual world that's over everything evil and wicked, and we know him as Satan. The name of my company is the Speakers of Organization, LLC. And the reason why I named this company before, as I said before in another video, and I tell people when they ask me, is because the Speakers of Organization stands for speaking truth, order, everything in context, everything in order, according to the pure reality truth that whatever it is. And that's what this company is all about. So today I want to talk a little on the subject of witchcraft, sorcery, and the world systems and the people of the world systems promote that. You have people talking things and saying that's magical. And the definition of the word magic is witchcraft and sorcery. You have cartoon industries that promote wizards, sorcery, and that's all witchcraft. Now, if I take something and present it on a platter to you, no matter how evil and wicked it is, if I present it in a way that's appeasing to you, you would choose to overlook the true wicked and pureness, the pure of evil that it is. So a lot of us in this world, we just overlook things and we take things for light, as if it's nothing, but it's really something. You have the industry that's promoting sexuality of little girls and little boys. And then you have an organization that's out today that's saying that it's all right for a man to look at a little girl sexually. That's the trick of Satan, or who we know as Satan and demons. Don't believe that foolishness. Don't believe it, because that's foolishness, that's pure evil. A grown man is never supposed to look on a little girl or a child and think that it's okay. I don't even want, if I'm at a football game or a basketball game and they have, and it's on a high school level, and they have cheerleaders cheering, high school cheerleaders, I don't even look at them. I don't want to look at no little girls cheerleading with their legs and dresses all high. I really don't want to see that. You see, you have some men that don't even care about, they're in their 40s and 50s and still are taught to young girls in their 20s and teens. That's foolishness and stupidity, and it's wrong if you ask me. I think a grown man only should go so low when it comes down to a certain age, when it comes down to dealing with a woman. Am I wrong? Because I don't say that about a woman dating a younger man, but it's still the same. So you have a lot of witchcraft going on, a lot of sorceries and things that's wrong going on. That's why you can listen to certain CDs, music, and play it backwards, and it has a satanic message to it. It's said in the music industry that when songs are made, they take them and they take the masters and they do satanic rituals over it, because so that whenever they make their copies and they distribute them out to the population and the masses of people, the curses that they put on that song will overcome and overtake the person that buys that song and listens to that song. And music is a very powerful thing. Music is very powerful. Music can change your way of thinking, the way you feel, your emotions. Music will make you rock to the beat. Music will make you pat your feet, move your legs, get out on the dance floor and want to dance. A dance where you stand. And music can control a lot of things. And Satan knows that. The demons know that. The human beings that live for Satan know that. That's why they put so much negativity in their songs. And yet the people buy, the people listen, the people sing it, the people memorize it. Satan is a very powerful entity. The word magic stands for witchcraft, sorcery. You understand? But we take that as nothing. The industries of the world is wicked. So I want to touch on witchcraft and magic. I had a family member in my life who was a witch. I didn't realize it when I was a child. I didn't even realize it when I was a young adult. It was really when I became an adult and I started really paying attention that I realized that, man, this person is a witch. And that person was my grandmother on my father's side. She was a witch. When I was 19 years old, 18 years old, I had to live with my grandmother, the one that was a witch. And my grandmother dealt with another woman who also was a witch. In their houses, they had two kitchens. One kitchen they used for the regular cooking, and then the other kitchen they used for the things that they put together dealing with witchcraft. The other lady, my grandmother's friend, she used to make, you walk in her house and it'd be candles all over the place. Lit up, dark, nothing but the lights of the candle. They used to go upstairs in the bedroom and do their different satanic rituals and homemade medicine and things like that. And my grandmother, it wasn't funny at the time. Let me tell you, I'm going to tell you two situations that happened. I used to work at this restaurant downtown Detroit. At that time, my grandmother lived on Ford Street off of Hamilton in Highland Park. And that's where I lived with my grandmother when I was 18, 19 years old. And I used to work at this restaurant down in the Renaissance Center, right off of the Detroit River. And I worked there from 5 o'clock, basically from 5 o'clock until 11:30, 12:30, weekends, whatever time we got off at 1:30, because you know, it was like a bar restaurant type of situation. And I used to get off at 1 o'clock, 1:30. I had a little Vega. I don't know if anybody familiar with a Vega, but I had a Vega. And you know, sometimes my car will break down. I paid $300 for that car from a man named Sonny, who went to my church at that time, and attended the same church that I went to at that time. And it was a red Vega. But when that car would break down, you know, my grandmother would let me use her car. She had a nicer car. She had a brownish color Cutlass Supreme. It was not a Cutlass, but a Chevrolet Caprice. That's what it was. And if sometimes I drove my grandmother's car to work, sometimes I didn't. But on this particular night, I don't even remember the day, I caught the bus. I think my grandmother didn't let me drive her car, and my car was broke down. It was down and out of commission. So I got off of work, caught the Hamilton bus. I would walk to the bus stop. Like if sometimes we'd get a ride, I'd get a ride, or with fellas that worked on my job, and when my car was down, I'd give people rides. We went like that on my job, me and fellas that worked on the job with me. But that day, that night right there, I ended up having to catch the bus. So I caught the Hamilton bus down from downtown Detroit to Highland Park on the corner of Ford and Hamilton. My grandmother lived about, I'm going to say 3 or 4 houses off of the corner. I walked down the street just like I usually do if I had to catch the bus home. And my grandmother had a chain fence in front of her house. Actually, she knew the lady next door. Her name was Miss Ross. And I'm quite sure both of them are dead also too. My grandmother is dead too. My grandmother died in 1985. But there was a chain fence that went across, that went in the front of my grandmother's house and Miss Ross' house. And I just found out recently, I'm talking about just recently, that Miss Ross and my grandmother met in a witchcraft type of congregation setting. I never knew that. I just always knew they were close coming up. And I knew it. I used to think it was weird at that time because I remember they had the chain fence in front of their houses, but there was no chain fence in the middle that divided their houses. You know, so everything was just open. And that was like odd to me. I never even asked why. But this particular night, I caught the bus home. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning, 1:30. Got off the bus. I walked down the street. I opened the fence. Walked up to the house like I usually do. Walked up the stairs on the porch. Opened the screen door. And I put my key in the door. And soon when I turned the key, the door just boom, flew open and bam, right into the wall. I'm just exaggerating when I say this, but I think before that door hit that wall, I was standing in the middle of the street just looking. I was scared. I think I cleared that fence without touching it there, or I probably just touched it with my hand and cleared that fence. I was gone because as soon as I turned the key, the door just say shoom, and it just like somebody was on the other side and just wham and yanked it open real hard. I was in the middle of the street and I was just looking at the house. I was breathing hard. I was scared. It was dark outside. And I'm looking at the front door open. Now I'm scared to go on the porch. Because I know that wasn't natural. I knew that was something dealing with a demon or a spirit. But now I'm standing in the middle of the street. I'm looking at the house. And now I'm trying to decide. I was trying to decide, man, should I go and close that door? Or should I just go? But I can't leave because my grandmother's still in there. There was a 3-family flat house. A family lived on the 2nd floor and somebody lived on the 3rd floor. My grandmother owned the house. But I didn't even think about the people on the 2nd and the 3rd floor. I was just thinking my grandmother's in there. I didn't think about her witchcraft. I didn't think about she's the cause really of why that door swung open like that. But knowing my heart, I couldn't just leave and leave that door open and somebody walked down the street, because it wasn't the best neighborhood. And somebody walk in there, kill my grandmother and kill the other people or whatever. You know, I couldn't have that. So I had to make the decision to walk back up to the door. I was so scared. Oh my goodness, I was so scared. So I started walking real slow up to the door, being very cautious. I got up there real quick. I grabbed the door and I closed it. Jetted right back, ran right back to the street. I was shaking, scared. But what I knew is I wasn't going in that house. So I went to the telephone. At that time, they had telephone booths. Young people, y'all might not know too much about the telephone booths, but nobody was walking around at that time in life. We didn't have cell phones. Nobody had cell phones. Matter of fact, we didn't never even heard of cell phones. So I walked up on Hamilton to the nearest phone booth, telephone booth, and I called my girlfriend. At that time, she was my high school sweetheart, and I explained to them what happened on the phone to her, or her mother answered the phone. I explained to her what happened on the phone, and she told me I can come over there and stay that night. So I called a taxi, flagged the taxi down, and I called a taxi over to their house, and I stayed that night over their house. And when morning time came, I had to go back to the house, but I wasn't scared then because it was daytime. So I called a taxi back home to my grandmother's house, and I walked in, and I told my grandmother what happened. And I let her know why I didn't stay there that night. She shook it off like it wasn't nothing. She wasn't shocked about it or anything. You know, I just never been that type of person that leaves people hanging. You know, just like I used to work at this restaurant called Church's Chicken some years ago. It's not there anymore either. It's on, it was on Livernois, back in Detroit on Livernois, near Elmhurst, Fullerton, Cortland. Not Cortland, it was more down towards Elmhurst and Livernois. And I used to work there, and one day, it was me, and there was this young lady named Brenda. Brenda was the manager. And at that time, I used to do a lot of flirting with Brenda. Brenda was she was all right. I used to like the way she talked and stuff. We did a lot of flirting, but she was the store manager. I lived in a two-family flat at that time. I was living on my own on a Tuxedo off of Livernois. I lived over there. And one day, this one night at Church's Chicken, it was just me and Brenda working there. And I was in the back washing dishes. And Brenda was up working in the front working the cash register. We was the only two working. And while I was washing the dishes, the next thing I heard was, "Ah, Tommy!" And I was at the corner, so I looked over like that. And I saw a fella, because Church's Chicken, it was all glass, but where the cash register was, there was always an opening. You know, for those that's not familiar with Church's Chicken restaurant look like. So I looked over and I saw a fella with a gun on Brenda. So I went back and I'm like, oh man, what am I gonna do? I either can go out there with the fella that has the gun on Brenda, or I can go to the back door, which was the alley, and walk out there and run home. That was my choice. I could have been gone. I could have left Brenda in that restaurant right by herself, and I could have ran to safety. But I'm not that type of fella. Never have been. I couldn't leave Brenda in there by herself. So I was like, oh man. So I walked in the front where the fella had the gun on Brenda. And to my surprise, there was another fella at the other cash register with a gun. And he told me, he said, come around and open the door. So I walked around to open the door, but let me remind you, I had to go back to the back where I was washing dishes to go around to open the door for him to go in. I could have ran out that door then and say, forget this. There's two fellas out there with a gun. They got a gun on Brenda. I could have ran out that door, jetted down the alley, and just ran down the alley and just went on home. But I'm not that type of person, and I'm not that type of individual. So I walked around, I let the fella in, and soon when I opened the door, he put the gun to my head like this at my temple. And he walked around and he told me while we was walking, open the registers. So while he got the gun on my head like this, I'm steady telling my man, I say, look here, man. I say, I'm just an employee, I work here. I say, I don't care nothing about this place like that. I say, man, if you take this, if you kill me, and this is what I'm telling him why he got the gun in my head. I'm saying, man, if you kill me, this restaurant going to be open tomorrow. I said, and when I die at my funeral, I say the owners and the people, the executives of this company, they're not going to come and attend my funeral. I said, they're going to go on with their lives. I said, man, I don't care about this money like this or this, for none of this. I said, if you want to, I'll give you the food. It doesn't make a difference. So he ain't say nothing. They was relaxed. I'm quite sure they'd done it before. So I went to the first register. I emptied it. Went to the second register. I got a bag, emptied it. I put all the money in there. Then after I did that, he told me to open the safe. So he still, all this time, he still got the gun to my temple, to my head. So we walk it back there into the office. I bend down. I opened the first safe because that opens by a key. I took all the money out of there. I put it in the bag. And then I handed it to him. And then he said, open the bottom safe. I don't have a combination. I didn't have a combination to that safe. I wasn't a manager. I was just an employee. I wasn't a team leader or nothing. I was just an employee. Making about $5 per hour. I apologize, like $3 and something per hour at that time. So I stood up and I told the fella, I said, look here, man. I say, I don't know the combination to that safe. I said, if I did, I would give it to you. But I wasn't trying to cause no waves. So I told him, I said, she's the manager. I said, she can open it. And I said it because I knew she had she knew the combination. We're not trying to put our lives on the line for robbery. So he told me to stay there. And he went in there and he told her to open up the safe. And she told him, Brenda told him that she didn't know the combination. He came back in the office, he told me, she said she don't know the combination. These two fellas got guns on both of us. The other fella's still in the vestibule with the gun on her. Nobody's walking into the restaurant unless somebody saw it and left, which I doubt. There was a police station down the street, which is the 10th, which at that time, I don't know if it's still there, was the 10th precinct on the corner of Livernois and Elmhurst, back in Detroit. I went to the door. When the fella came back and told me that she said she didn't know the combination, I went to the door and I hollered at Brenda. I was like, Brenda, you had to get in here and open up this safe right now for these people. You know what I'm saying? So I said something like that to her. She was scared, I understand. And she walked in there and she bent down and she opened up the safe. And I reached down in there, I emptied all the money out and I gave it to the fellas and I said, look here, y'all got everything. So then after that, the fella told me, open up the back door. So the fella in the vestibule that was in the, with the people at the register, he went on and left. And the other fella, all this time, he put the gun back to my head and he followed me to the back door. So in my mind, I'm like, man, is he going to kill me? Is he going to shoot? Or is he going to let me go? I don't know. Am I about to die today? All of this is going through my mind. The gun wasn't no longer on Brenda, but she was scared and I understand that. So he finally kept the gun to my head. I went back to the back door. I'm still talking to my man. I said, look here, man, I don't care. I got everything. Man, I don't care, man. You kill me. This place don't care about me like that. The owners of this restaurant don't care nothing about me. So I'm talking to this fella. So I go back, I open the door, the same door that I had 2 opportunities to run out of and leave Brenda. But I'm not that type of fella, and I wasn't going to do that, even to put my own life on the line, and I didn't do it. Wouldn't even do it. I would never have done that. So I opened the door, and soon when that fella walked out, he could have been about that close past the door. Soon when he stepped out that back into that alley, I say, shoom! I closed the door and went back to the on the side just in case he was going to turn around and start shooting. The door was metal anyway. You know, I closed that door. But anyway, I went to Brenda, and I didn't curse. I've never been a person that cursed or, you know, used profanity. So I went on ahead and I cursed Brenda out without using curse words. You know, for her putting our lives online like that when all she had to do was get those fellas, you know, what they wanted. Make it easy, make it smooth, let them take what they want, and be gone with it. And, you know, the police come and do a report. You know, so in that situation, I said that situation about Church's Chicken because there was the same scenario with my grandmother, you know, when I was standing there trying to decide should I close that door or not when that spirit slammed that door open like that. And I'm not that type of person, so I went and closed the door. Didn't leave my grandmother with the door open. One time, my grandmother, she would go to the other witch's house and stay there for 2-3 days, sometimes a week, sometimes one day. And I would drive my grandmother's car. My grandmother would let me drive her car as long as I took her to do her errands during the day. So I would get up in the morning. We'd get up like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. And I'll drive my grandmother everywhere she want to go. If she want to get something to eat, to the bank, go pay bills, wherever. She wanted me to take her to church and drop her off. Whatever my grandmother wanted, I did. I was a chauffeur. And out of return, she used to let me drive her car whenever I wanted to, basically. So I used to drop my grandmother off at the lady's house who was a witch. She stayed over there off of Woodward near the Boulevard in Detroit. And when I used to drop my grandmother off, I used to always say to my grandmother, because I went in her house one time, and that's when I saw all the candles lit all over the fireplace, and it was on the furniture, the tables, the end tables, everywhere. She just had candles lit, and the house was dark. So I had asked my grandmother one time, I said, Grandma, I said, when I drop you off over here, I said, I appreciate it if you, you know, wouldn't make it where I have to go back into that house. You know, I told her, I said, I'll drop you off anytime you want me to. You call me, you tell me when to come back and pick you up. I'll come back and be here for you. So my grandmother agreed to that. A lot of time went by. And one day, I went to drop my grandmother off at the other lady's house, who was a witch. And my grandmother looked at me, because she was sitting on the passenger side, I was driving. My grandmother looked at me and said, park the car. So I'm looking at my grandmother. I say, park the car? And she said, yeah, park the car. I was like, Grandma, I remember I asked you, I asked you to make it where I don't have to go back into the house, please? And she said, park the car. So I went, what was I going to do? I had to park the car. That's my grandmother, who I definitely respected. And like I said in another video, I never respected elderly people, my mother, my father. I never disrespected my grandmother. My other grandmother on my mother's side, she ain't play. So we knew not to fool with her. But my grandmother on my father's side was a witch. So I had to park the car. And God bless, I can't say that because they're both gone, but my mother's mother, she's also passed away. She died in 2008 at the age of 87. She was my mother's mother. She didn't play. I love her. I miss her. But my other grandmother, I miss her and I love her too. But she just happened to be a witch. So I parked the car and I walked in. We got out the car. Me and my grandmother walked into the lady's house. I think her name was Mrs. Smith. she was the other witch. I also knew that she was a more powerful witch than my grandmother. I already knew that too, I can tell. And she also had control over my grandmother. We walked in the house, and to my surprise, the other witch, Miss Smith, she had dinner ready. So when I see she had dinner ready and I smell the food, the first thing goes through my mind is, I can't eat this food. I gotta find a way where I can't eat this food and don't eat this food. Because in my mind, I'm thinking that this woman probably put something in here. Probably put some type of witchcraft, whatever, into the food to try to affect me or to control me. But let me tell you about this. I want to come back to the dinner because there was something that just came back to my memory that led up to why I ended up being at the Miss Smith's house, the witch dinner. Because this is what happened that caused me to be at the dinner. Like I told you before, my grandmother used to let me drive her car anytime I wanted to. One day, I got in my grandmother's car, and there was this sawdust. It was like a orange color sawdust, and it was sprinkled in the corners of my grandmother's car. It was in the corners of the passenger seat, the driver's seat, and the two sides of the back seat. So I took my grandmother's car to the car wash. And when I started driving her car, took her car to the car wash, I vacuumed all of that sawdust up. I knew it was witchcraft because I knew what my grandmother was dealing in. So I knew why the stuff was I knew why the sawdust looking stuff was on the corners of the car. So I took the car to the car wash, I vacuumed it all out, I did everything I did, my visiting and all that type of stuff during the day. I got back to my grandmother's house, and when I walked in, the same stuff that was sprinkled in the corners of my grandmother's house, driver's side, passenger side, and both sides of the back seat that I sprinkled up, was also sprinkled through all of my grandmother's house. In the corners, all along the walls, everywhere through the whole house, and I saw it. And who was in the house was my grandmother and the lady Miss Smith the witch. So when I walked in and I saw that, I said, Grandma, what's this stuff that's all? I already knew what it was. I knew it was some witchcraft stuff they were doing. But when I walked in the house, I said, Grandma, I said, what's all this stuff that's sprinkled all in the corners and along the walls of the house? I say, this same stuff was in your car. I say, I took your car to the car wash and I vacuumed it all out. I said, Grandma, don't you know this is witchcraft? And that's the exact words I said to my grandmother. And when I said that to my grandmother, Miss Smith, who was standing there next to my grandmother, stepped into my face. And she looked me right in my eyes. And this was the exact words she said to me. She said, Tommy, I like you. And you are a nice looking young man. But I'll hate to see you dead. And that was her exact words to me. And when she said that to me, my grandmother did not say a word. She didn't come into my defense. She didn't say, you know, what she called her. If she called, I don't remember my grandmother calling her Miss Smith. But my grandmother didn't step up and say nothing like, you don't talk to my grandson like that. Who you think you talking to, threatening his life? My grandmother didn't say nothing. She just stayed there, stood there quiet. So when Miss Smith said that to me, she said, Tommy, you're a nice looking young man. She said, Tommy, I like you. And you're a nice looking young man. But I hate to see you dead. And when she said that to me, I said, Miss Smith, I said, you can try to do whatever you want to do to me. I said, but it'll never prosper. It'll never do what you have sent it out to do, because the Most High God, He'll protect me. He's going to protect me, and everything you try to do to me will not work. And that's what I told her. And I turned away and I walked away, and that was that. So now, a few weeks after that, now I got to go into this same woman's house to eat dinner. So now, a month later, I'm going to say a month later, 2 months later, I don't know, I can't remember. I dropped my grandmother off at the house and my grandmother tell me to park the car. What I'm going to do? I got to park the car. So I parked the car, we walk in there, I smell the food. We at the lady Miss Smith's house. She cooks dinner. And I got to eat the food. But I'm telling myself I'm not going to eat the food. Just so happened, we the only 3 people in this house. Miss Smith the witch, my grandmother who is a witch, and me. Miss Smith and my grandmother, they eat at the dining room table. My grandmother, Miss Smith had a table that was about probably this size of my desk or a little smaller, and it was facing a wall. This was a wall, and I was facing this way, and they had me sit at this table. At another table that was in a little room. So I'm sitting at the table facing the wall, and they're in the dining room eating and just talking away. They fixed my plate. I'm sitting there at the table, looking at the food, telling myself, I can't eat this. What I'm going to do? How am I going to get out of this? Because I wasn't going to taste a little bit of food. So I just happened to look over to my left, and that was the kitchen. It was a refrigerator, and right on the side of the refrigerator was a trash can. So they were to my back. The way that Miss Smith's house was set up, my back was to them, and they were in the dining room, and the little room I was sitting in was right off of the dining room. They were so much into their conversation talking, I sat there for like 15, 20 minutes, and I kept looking back like that at them, and I seen them talking. So I get up real quietly, and I creep into the kitchen. I open up the trash can where they had it was a foot thing, and I opened it up, and I take my fork and I scrape it quietly, every food on that plate into the trash can, and I took the paper or whatever was in there and I covered up the food. Went back, snuck, was quiet, tiptoed back into my chair, and I sat down, and I was, acting like the motions that I was eating. Sat there like for another 10 minutes, and then I turned around and I told my grandmother, which were the 2 witches, and I told them, I said, I'm finished. The food was good. So Miss Smith said, oh, okay, you want some more? I said, oh, no, thank you. I said, I appreciate it. I said, I'm full. I'm full. And she said, okay, and that was that. We stayed there a little longer. They did some talking. I just stayed sitting to myself while they were talking, and then we left. So the Most High God worked it out where I didn't have to eat the food. I knew another fella that dealt with some witchcraft, and they did some spells on him, and he ended up breaking his arm. So witchcraft is real, sorcery is real, and there's nothing to play with, nothing at all to play with, nothing at all. And the world systems is promoting witchcraft. That's why you see people holding up their satanic signs now. You can go on the internet and put in Satanism and all that. Satanism in the music industry, the entertainment industries, the people that's high up that deals in witchcraft. You can, all of that information is available to us to know truth now. We live in the age of information, and things are not hard to find out. And the world systems is trying to push it where the whole world, that's why it's so, witchcraft is so powerful within the entertainment industries right now, and in politics, because they're trying to make the whole world a satanic society, and that's the goal. It's nothing to play around. So we have a lot of weak-minded people on the earth that just want to get on board because they want to be accepted with the rest of the masses of people. They want to be accepted by the people that's in powerful positions in the earth. We have people that's pastors, bishops, and ministers, elders, evangelists, and they're on television, but they're ministers of Satan, and they're ministers of demons. The scriptures say you should know them by their fruits. You always have to look at a person's action, not what they say, but what they do. And that's what you have to look at. Witchcraft is nothing to play with. That's why there's more people in hell right now than there is going to be in the presence of the Most High God, because more people are more interested in being accepted by mainstream society. A lot of people will sell out their souls and do anything to be accepted by the mainstream people of the earth. I'm here to speak to all of y'all that had the strength to be different, is to reject Satanism. Reject Satan. And don't be a part, because your life on this earth, the length of your life on this earth, no matter what your age is, cannot be compared to eternity after death. So the choice we have is to live on our lives, live on this earth until we're whatever age, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, or whatever, and do a little suffering and live for the Most High, or either fit in and be accepted with the world that's promoting Satanism and then die and end up in hell. My job is never, and anybody that speaks truth on this earth, our job is not to make anybody believe anything or to put stuff on our belief down somebody's throat, so to speak. My job is to speak the words that the Most High God wants me to speak into the atmosphere. That's my job. And He does the rest. And everybody that have a heart that He chooses to accept the truth that's being said, then that person will change and do the things of the Most High. And also I want to speak in our church congregations. Let it be known that witches and warlocks go to church congregations too. Witches and warlocks set up church congregations, even though the church is in the heart. The church is not, like I said in another video, the church is not a group of people congregating together having service. That's just people grouping together, gathering together to worship the Most High God, to pray, to hear the preaching and the teaching that goes on. But the church is not the building. It's not where the service is being held. The church is in the person's soul and spirit, which is the Holy Spirit of the Most High. I choose not to use the word ghost. You know, they say Holy Ghost, but ghost is a dynamic word dealing with demons. That's the definition of the word ghost. I use spirit because we are a spirit. All of us, every individual that walked this earth, ever walked this earth, and everybody that's going to walk this earth in the future is a spirit. An angel is a spirit. Demons are spirits. God is a spirit. The Most High living God of Abraham, who we know as Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of Israel, the true Israelites. He's a spirit. Satan is a spirit. We're in this naturally flesh right here so we can operate in this natural world. That's temporary. So to all of you all that feel like you need to be accepted by the world and would do anything, like there's a fella that's walking around that I know. He started walking around with a satanic, it's an A, the letter A goes across with a circle, satanic symbol. And me and him was talking one day, and I asked him, I said, do you know what that necklace is that you have on, that satanic symbol? So he started telling me about some nature. It got something to do with nature. So I told him no, let him know no, that's witchcraft. That's what the witches and warlock use when they cast a spell. And I said, that's what you have. And he was like, oh, I didn't know that, Charles. You know, but I already knew he knew. And then about 2 days later, he walked by me and he threw up the Baphomet sign. He put his hands out like this and did like that. So I told him, I said, I knew. You ain't fooled me. I told him, you knew, I knew. But that's his choice. You know, if a person, if they choose to get on the bandwagon with Satanism, because they want to be accepted, or they just want to be a part of it, or be identified with something, then that's the individual's choice to do what they do. If that's what you choose to do, then that's what you choose to do. But there's a consequences and some precautions to pay for being like that. Because there's a Most High God who's holy and righteous. There's only two entities that exist. The Most High God's world and who we know as Satan. Good and bad. We taught that even in the cartoons as children when we watched the cartoons. You had the good and the bad. So the choice is what decision you're going to make. Are you going to live for the Most High? Or are you going to live for Satan? Are you going to do the things that the Most High God wants you to do? Or are you going to live according to Satan? The world is pushing the system of satanic hard every day without rest. Because Satan himself knows that he has a limited time. See, Satan knows the truth. Who we know as Satan, who we know his name, which we know in the earthly language as Lucifer. His name, we know him as, his name used to be Lucifer. And now since his fall, we know him as Satan. He knows the truth. Don't be deceived and fooled. He knows the truth. But he speaks lies. He lives lies. He's the father of lies. The truth is not in him. And we're told this through the scriptures. You think he don't know the truth? Of course he knows the truth. He's been around longer than any of us. Than any human being that ever lived on this earth. And then you have people saying, well, he deserves a second chance. He's done too much. It cannot even be spoken. The evil and the wickedness and the pure evil that he has committed and that he has done, it can't even be spoken about because it's so much and it's so deep and it's so terrible. It's so wicked. It's so evil. Powerfully evil, wicked. To the core. Satan has committed all of these things. Demons also have committed them. But yet people choose to serve Satan, who we know as Satan. Don't you know that Satan himself his strength is not even a drop, is weaker than a drop of water in a bucket when it comes down to the Most High. He knows that. Why do you think Satan don't overcome the Most High? Satan don't even lie to the Most High God. If Satan was face to face talking to the Most High God, he doesn't lie to the Most High God. The Most High God is so powerful, strong, and his spirit is so strength, it's impossible to lie in front of him. Demons don't even lie when it comes down speaking to the Most High. If the Most High comes and speaks to them, they don't lie. But Satan will lie to you and deceive you because we as human beings are a weaker vessel. Easily to be led, misled, and deceived and tricked. So therefore humanity goes the way of Satanism. So we go and deal in different occupations dealing with who we know as Satan and demons. Letting them control our lives. But the Most High God on the other side, come to him, worship me, love me. This is what I have for you in eternity. You have a lot of people that says, okay, the church promotes live poor on this earth today, and because my riches and my mansions is going to be after I die. But that's a lie. That's not even true. Because the Most High God tells you in Scripture to be prosperous, and he wants us to be in good health. That's what he wants. But to be in good health, we have to change our diets and start eating right. It's not going to just happen. We have to make things happen in our life. So that lie, the church wanting us to be poor while we live on this earth and then be prosperous after our death, living in the presence of the Most High, is not true. We want you to live prosperous in your life today. Just make sure it's the right way and it's not hurting and deceiving, tricking anybody. Don't lie to no one. Don't lie to corporations. Don't lie on applications. And do things the right way and trust that the Most High will bless you. Because he will. There's nothing wrong with having mansions, driving nice, expensive luxury cars, having nice clothes, and living in a nice house. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as it was done in the right way. The scriptures say the love of money is the root of all evil. Money is not the root of evil. The love of money. Because people would do anything to get money. They'll cheat, lie, steal, sell drugs, sell poison, and do everything within their power, evil, in the occupation of evil, to acquire money unto themselves or for themselves. That's what makes it evil. The love of money is the root of all evil, because everything that people do that's evil and wicked is because of money. You have corporations that cheat people, overcharge people, ridiculous prices because of the love of money. People steal, cheat, rob, sell drugs because of money. It's the love of money that's the root of all evil. And it's always going to be that way. Because people want nice things and like nice things, but then they will do anything evil and wicked to acquire it unto themselves. But I'm here to tell you to refrain from that. Your soul is at stake. Run to the Most High. Gain your riches and your whatever you have. Gain it the right way. Get on your knees and cry and pray to the Most High.